Podcast One presents The Lady Gang, the Hollywood Girl Posse, with LadyGang Quickie. Here's Keltieknight, Becca Tobin, and jacvanek.
Let's make this quick.
Today we have an iconic duo with us. Not only have these boss babes been responsible for casting some of your favorite TV shows and films over the years, one refers to herself as a hobby baker who makes a mean pumpkin cheesecake, and the other has an adorable Tennessee twang and is currently using to charm the folks across the pond where she recently relocated. One of them was rescued from having to attend law school by Steven Spielberg, while the other popped her casting cherry on a beloved and critically acclaimed film, Hannah Montana. But in all seriousness, they've each have well over a decade of experience as casting directors in the entertainment industry, have won casting and humanitarian awards, got really ballsy and created their own companies, and most importantly are the rare birds in this situation who are actually nice to actors, and that's the real reason that Becca invited them on LadyGang. Please welcome Jessica Sherman of Jessica Sherman Casting and Jenn Presser of Breakaway Casting and the hosts of the Tipsy Casting podcast.
Welcome.
Wow. That was the nicest anyone's ever introduced ever.
You know, Becca actually wrote that for you. I got to read it. I don't want to normally I write the intros, but she was like, no, I know them.
I channeled Keltie. Those were that's a style in which she, Okay. But also I was going to ask, I've been listening to the podcast, Jenn, and I feel like, first of all, I love when I can hear, I'm from Georgia. So when I hear someone where it just sneaks in a little bit of a Southern twang, but the evolution of your podcast, I think being in London, I don't hear it.
Really? Oh, well, that's crazy. You know, what's funny is I will say that when I'm around, I'm very adaptable of
Same.
When I'm in the South, it'll get real strong real quick. And I'll say, yo, all the time, throw it around. But yeah, I think here I'm just trying not to get the British lilt going.
I hope
that would be
do.
an interesting combo.
Yeah.
It's very Madonna. Okay, so I know Becca's the actress of the bunch. Jack would prefer to never have a camera around her unless she's in a bikini holding Aperol spritz on vacation. I'm desperate for any kind of attention, so I just wanted you to know that dynamic. And I'm opening the show today with a question about me, which is very fitting. So, before the strike was happening, I got an email I was really excited about, and they asked me if I wanted to play myself on Hacks. I'm an entertainment journalist, and I think they were doing some sort of red carpet for the characters. And I was really pumped. And they were like, "What's your availability on these days? We're interested in having you, play yourself." And I was like, "Oh my God, amazing!" And so I wrote back I thought I did a really good job. I wrote back my availability, and I said I'm a big fan of the show, which I am. And then they were like, "Great, we'll be in touch." And then they were never in touch. And I know two people that are peers of mine in entertainment journalism that did get called and they got cast. And I'm just wondering what I did to not get that job because I really wanted it.
You wanted it too much.
I wanted it too much. Was I too quick on the draw? Should I have sent a headshot? What happened, guys?
My best guess is that it didn't have anything to do with you.
No, it had to have something to do with her.
No, most of the time things like that just kind of happen, or either you went quickly and then they were everyone responded within, or they were let's give it 5 days, see who responds, and then pick and choose whether again, I don't know your world too well, but if you guys if they already have somebody who looks similar to you, they're oh, maybe let's go with this other person or something like that. But I agree with Jess. Most of the time it has nothing to do probably with you.
Yeah, because I think what our process is we're usually making lists of people that could be right for it. So we assemble a short list, especially in this case, and then we send it to the director of the episode or the showrunners or whoever it is, and then they whittle it down to who they respond to, whether it's the physical look or whatever it is. So I feel very strongly it had nothing to do with you.
Well, I'm available to play myself
Done.
at any time. So And, you know, I'm really happy for my other friends. Okay. All right. So listen, we love Hollywood, and we do a lot of episodes called Allegedly What's Happening, where we talk about things that are happening in Hollywood. But we thought this would be really interesting to show like the inside of like how stars are become and how your favorite shows get your favorite shows and this kind of thing. So can you explain in very dumb terms to the LadyGang what exactly you do for a living?
Basically, the broad strokes of it is that we have to know as many actors as possible around the world. And in the process of casting a show or casting a film I like to call it, we curate a palette for the filmmakers to choose from. And that palette can change depending on the tone or the theme of the genre of the project. So basically, we make lists of actors we already know, or we audition actors we don't know, and sort of mix and match of who would be the best fit for the role. And that changes that changes as we go through the process. Once we lock one person, then what we're looking for the next actor might be different based on the person that we've just locked. So it's constantly changing through the process.
Were you both actresses at some point, or how did you? Because you're
how do you get into casting?
Yeah, and you really have a chase your dream story a little bit, which we love at LadyGang. Can you talk about that a little bit, Jenn?
Yeah. So I literally fell into casting. I'm very, very similar to Jack. Is it Jack or Jack? Sorry.
Jack. Yeah.
Jack. Sorry. In terms of, I hate being on camera. Like, even this is a lot. Like, but I like talking in front of people. Being in front of camera is not my thing. So I went to like a film orientated school and did a lot of internships during school. And then right as I was graduating, like you said, I got a job on Hannah Montana, the movie, and it was in casting. And I remember going in for the interview and Googling, like, what is casting? I don't know. Like, I'm just going to take a shot here. And my two bosses on the film were like, as long as you're a really good worker and you learn really quickly, we'll teach you and you'll go far if you do well. And I started to rise in the ranks quite quickly, even just on that movie. But I kept even like kind of leaving and going. I was like, I'm going to go do production because I just never knew what casting was. I'd never wanted to act. Don't really have those skills at all. I mean, I've tried. The best I can do is like reading with actors in the room, which I think I'm okay at. But if somebody else wants to read, if I have like an associate or something that wants to read with actors, I'll always let them do it. But yeah, so I just fell into it. And then I kept kind of like going out, coming back in. And then finally, when I moved to LA, I was just like, all right, I'm in. I'm doing something right. I keep getting jobs. I keep kind of building my resume, moving the ladder. I was like, I'm in. I love it. And I love actors. That's the thing is like, because I've never been one, I find actors fascinating because I think it's such a different mentality than most humans in terms of like, you want that, you kind of want to be the center of attention, but you also want to be somebody who's so not you. And there's something that like drives actors that is like fascinating to me. Because how many other like professions, where people will stay in it for like decades and get like one or two jobs, but still have such a passion for it. By that point, most people would give up on it. But actors are like, no, I need it. I thrive off this. I love having it. So that's kind of how I got into it.
We're insane.
I don't understand it. I'm like, how do you do
most
it?
careers, if you get told no this many times, you'll leave. And why are you still here?
Exactly.
I feel that okay, so who's your like I mean, I know you've had your hands in so many things, but like, can you tell us like your greatest casting story? Like you found someone at the Target and you had them read and they became or what is like
or your craziest, like most outrageous in the room. You're like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a great story of in the room. Why don't I tell the in the room one, and then Jess, you can tell your best casting story. We talked about it on the podcast. So I had a guy. I was casting a movie called Bad Moms Christmas, and in the movie there's a stripper role. And we were reading it. And like every hot 30-year-old male was coming in to read for it, which was like my heaven. I was like, you walk out into the waiting room and you're like, oh, what did I do to deserve this life? It's amazing. And so there was one guy who is quite well known in my opinion. And he has a wife who works in the industry. And he came in and he took his because like one of the scenes was like a balls waxing scene. It's like their meet cute. And he decides to halfway through the scene rip his pants off. Oh. And I'm like, I'm behind the camera and I'm like, what? Wait, I can't. It's against SAG rules to do that.
Wait, was he wearing underwear?
Like very little underwear.
Oh.
Like I wouldn't maybe say G-string, but pretty close.
Like he was trying to Channing Tatum it or whatever from Magic Mike. Okay.
Oh my God.
And then he kept messing up. the scene because I didn't get through them. Because I mean, if I took my top off in a scene, I don't know, I think it'd probably, mess me up. And so then we stopped him and we're like, okay, that was great. Do it again. Let's like start from the top. And I was like, this time you don't need to take your pants off. Like, it's good. We'll be fine. I was trying to like make him feel comfortable, not like awkward about it. And he was like, no, I've already committed to this. So he keeps them off the entire audition. And I was like, okay, well, we can't send this to anybody because it's against SAG rules to send out any kind of form of nudity amongst yourselves or anything. So I just kept being like, what do I do? And it's like, you don't want to look directly at him. It's very awkward. It's the craziest thing.
Love that he's like, no, I've committed to the bit. I've practiced it this way. It is in my mind. This is how I'm going to get the role. Like, pants are coming off.
But as an actor, sometimes you get sides, like, which is basically like a scene, which is your audition scene. And there'll be things in it where it's like she sits on top of his lap and starts dry humping and caressing, whatever. And you're like, you as the actor kind of have to decide, like, how far do I take this? Also, even if it's written like, and they kiss, I've seen people be like fully pantomime a makeout. That feels weird to me. And then I've had people just, like tell me just bypass it altogether. And the energy of kissing is there. But like you sometimes as an actor, you feel it's the most humbling thing ever to be like, I guess I'm just going to take my creative liberty and hope this is right. And it's usually not.
Yeah.
I feel like being in the casting room has to be like the most vulnerable place for an actor. And that's especially like if you're having, you said that guy was well known versus like, I'm sure there is a bunch of unknowns. Like everybody is kind of at the same level and you're just like trying so hard for this thing and probably embarrassing yourself in like all these different ways. Like that's got to be such an interesting environment for you guys to be in.
Do you guys sense the desperation? Like when people come in, I'm sure everyone's desperate. Everyone wants the job or you wouldn't be at the audition. And honestly, if you're Angelina Jolie, I would assume you're not auditioning anyway. So like the audition process is like, you're good enough to get the job, but like not good enough to get just an offer. So
a call. Yeah.
So like, do you smell and see the desperation or like?
I also still would like to hear Jessica's craziest story.
Oh yeah.
But I think to answer that, I think, you can definitely, I think that's what sort of sets actors apart is where they can disconnect from the nerves, which are there no matter what, and to focus on the material. And I think a lot of that is preparation. But yes, that's very clear when someone is when it's so precious that they can't move forward. So it's hard. I don't envy an actor's journey by any means. I think that's and I think that's we have a lot of respect for actors, and it's all about creating a safe space that you walk into that your actors can do the best work ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't ever want actors to feel like, because we can feel as you're saying, you can feel that desperation as soon as they walk in and they never book. It's only the ones who have been like constantly auditioning that walk in and they're like, oh, if I get this job, great. If not, fine. And they walk out and they like leave it behind. Those are usually the ones who book all the time.
Oh my
it's the ones who come in. Yeah.
Becca!
I know this. Are you acting like this is new information?
No, but I am the Kris Jenner, and I was like, no, you got to put the outfit on. I'm always like, you got to smoke the cigarette.
We argue.
You got to go. And Becca's like, because for me, in what I do, there's only one job every 5 years, and you have to like go after it. But for her, she's like, no, I go in, I read. If I get it, great. If I don't, cool. Like, and then I forget about it. I never think about it again. And I was just like, that's such a cold asshole way to live your life. But I guess she's doing it right.
Keltie wants her to method act for every single.
She wants me to like leave every job, every audition, every self-tape, everything like manifesting so hard where I'm like printing out pictures of myself and like who the love interest is already cast as. Like where I walk around my house and I'm like manifesting. I'm like, that would send me into an institution if I was committing that hard to all of these things.
Now that Jenn and Jessica said that you're doing it right, I will never bother you again.
Thank you so much.
That's the only way you can probably survive. Because it's like if you're putting so much stock into something and the chances are of you getting it are so low, then it's like you would literally beat yourself into the ground, and those are probably the people that quit. Because it's like you can't handle it. You can't like disassociate yourself from it.
Yeah. Hey, Jessica, tell us about your crazy story. Who did you discover?
Okay, the discover side of it. So many years ago. I don't know how many years ago it's been because of COVID, but I worked on Star Wars The Force Awakens as the associate.
Amazing.
And it was a wild adventure. We were we were contracted for 10 weeks. We were on it for 11 months. It was an investment of time, to say the least. And so midway through the process, when we weren't finding what we were looking for Finn and Rey, for John Boyega and Daisy Ridley, when we weren't finding what we needed, I organized a open call through the Midwest. And so I traveled for 3 weeks right before Thanksgiving, basically doing sort of American Idol style meet and greets and open calls, which I've never done before and I would like to never do again. But like I was going on morning shows, advertising, the whole thing. And again, I'm with Jenn. No on camera for me. Very awkward, uncomfortable. But while I was doing these open calls, I was also going to universities in the area and doing Q&As and auditioning the kids in the drama programs. And it was really incredible. And I met so many actors that right after that experience ended up graduating school and moving to Los Angeles, I think sort of because of it as well. And I met this kid at UT Austin and in the drama program, and he was a freshman at the time. And he was so special. Like you just knew it. And like I looked at him when I saw him in the sort of Q&A setup, that I was like, this is a young Mahershala Ali. Like you can see it. He is so dynamic. He's so just bright and had so much passion. And at the end, because UT Austin was strangely the one university that wouldn't let me audition their kids on campus because they had said like, our job is to educate them, not to get them jobs now. And whatever, it's a whole thing. But anyways, at the end of it, I gave him my card and I was like, if you do the virtual open call, send me the audition directly. And so he did, and he was so interesting. And we showed his tape to JJ Abrams and he really liked him. He was like, he's not for the lead, but let's keep him for a supporting. And ultimately the Star Wars aspect didn't work out because of scheduling and London and all of those things. But we stayed in touch. And so he did a UTLA extension program out here. We had coffee. I started sending him on like manager and agency meetings. Every manager that met him wanted to sign him, which I'd never seen before. And he really had the pick of the litter without having a single credit on his resume. And since then, he's got a manager and an agent. He's a series regular on Your Honor. Is
this Chelsea's boyfriend?
Who is your
Keith?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay.
Chelsea used to work for us.
Keith's girlfriend.
Who's Chelsea?
Okay, so Chelsea used to work for us at LadyGang for like a very long time.
My personal assistant first.
Forever.
And then she kind of moved up the ranks. And she still comes and does like some fun stuff here and there when we need her. But like she would talk to me years ago about her boyfriend who was just sort of starting out. And she's like, I'm so nervous. I hear your stories of being an actress and it sounds like quite frankly terrible. And I'm like, it is. And then I you know what? I met him and I told her, I said, he's going to be perfectly fine. He's a star.
He is a star. Yeah.
He's a star.
Oh my God, what are the chances?
And the nicest person, because let me tell you a story about Keith.
Nicest.
When we were going on we wrote a book last year and we were going on a book tour and we hired Chelsea to come and help us on the book tour. We needed like more hands on deck. And we had something like 18 suitcases of merch and books and like all this stuff. And we were like, Keith is like, no, it's fine. I'll bring my SUV or whatever. And then Chelsea, you drive Keltie's. And like, so he took us to LAX and I was like, oh my God, we're going on Delta, Terminal 3. And we get to Terminal 3. They're like, you need to be at Terminal 5. And we were like, okay. And Keith literally, it's 5 a.m. And this man is taking the heavy suitcases and putting them on the thing and then running them between Terminal 3 and Terminal 5. And I was like, Keith, I love you. He's the nicest person. He's like salt of the earth. This is freaking crazy.
That is
bizarre. What are the chances?
Do you guys know his story though?
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, no. So his family is originally from Zimbabwe. The family came here because his dad had a job in Texas, and they were sort of transitioning to go. His dad had a new job in Canada, so, maybe in Vancouver. I'm not exactly sure, but their visas were expiring, and they drove up to Canada to move, and they went through the wrong border, I guess, and they had to go across country to enter through Vancouver. And when they got to Vancouver, their visas were expired, and so they were detained, and they were all separated. And so this was like when he told me the story, I was just like a complete mess. But so they were all separated, and he was placed with a family that they loved theater, and they took him to Shakespeare, and they took him to all these different like plays and stuff. And that's how he was exposed to the arts and like fell in love with acting.
Wow. Oh my God.
Holy shit.
So it's like something that was so hard and challenging was like the best thing that inspired his journey now. And it was like he just opens his mouth and I'm like, you're going to be something huge. That's all I know.
Wow.
Huge.
Well,
Humongous.
let me ask you this. He's so nice too. Yay. Okay. Actually, they just house sat for me like 2 weeks ago, and I can see their footprints in my pool. Anyway, long story short, I have a question for you though. Like, that is the story, and I think what you do is so important, because a story like that, you go to the school, you meet this kid, and then you've mentored him and helped him and set him up with the right people to have success. And that is, I want to ask you, it seems like that's very rare, and it seems like we're just being thrown children of other famous people, and it's like, well, if you don't know someone, it's impossible to break in. So like, what are the ratios of like how often you're finding someone who went to school and is like hustling in LA, or, you know, didn't go to school and like, or versus someone famous being like, hey, my cousin's kid, can you see them for the role? Like, what is the real tea going on? Because it feels like for me, what I do and reporting on entertainment, it's all Nepo babies.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, I mean, for us in our process, it's a combination of the two for sure. But I think it's the sort of success rate. Like this, obviously the Nepo babies have a shorter timeline when it is leaping into fame, essentially, because they've already been there to some degree. And what we're doing as far as like mentorship and finding and mining these talents and watching them grow over time, like that is still a constant thing for us as casting directors. And we are doing it, but it is, the landscape of the industry is changing so drastically that whether or not we get to cast people in lead roles, early in their journey when they have no name value, like recognizability, is a very different thing than us actively doing the same thing that I did with Keith.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, the Nepo baby thing is such a, like, irritation to me, I think, because I think it shortens their span of like how the hard work they actually have to put in. And I don't understand. And they're kind of taught this mentality of like, hey, my mom is so-and-so, I should then be a lead, instead of all the other actors who have to work their way up. They do the one-liners, they do an arc, they do a guest star, then they're series regulars, then they move into film. Like there is somewhat of a trajectory that could be had for somebody who's just basically starting. And you do find the people like a Paul Mescal who just rose. he jumped. He didn't go through all those processes, and he has nobody famous in his family. But it is really frustrating because like, I think like, I have the best scenario of like Patrick Schwarzenegger came in and read for me when he was like 18, I think. And it was before he went to USC. And I remember his agent, because the only reason he had an agent with one of the biggest agencies in town is because of his last name. Yeah. And so he came in and it was not a good audition. Like he knows it. I know it. Everyone knows it. And then he was like, because I remember talking to his agent afterwards and being like, hey, like he needs some classes, something. Like he does not have that like intrinsic like I'm now a movie star, but he has movie star looks. He's really handsome. And then he ended up going to USC and like doing stuff. And I will say, like, I've read him since then and he's gotten better. I still don't think he's like leading man, Brad Pitt level acting by any means, but at least he's gotten, and he like worked really hard at it. But I do think that road is so much shorter for people like the Margaret Qualleys of the world and Lily Rose Depps. Like they pretty much have it handed to them. Where again, I have so many friends who are actors who are just like grinding each and every day to get that one little break in. And that's where I feel quite bad for like actors who don't have that leg up, and where almost as a casting director, I go above and beyond to see 10 more of those people so that, because it's not that I hate Nepo babies. I don't want it to come across that way, but it's like, I just feel like it's not fair if you don't try to give the people who don't have the name recognition or who are just hustling. You have to give more people those opportunities to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
Frustrating.
It's like I just remember my time from random acting classes in New York and LA, and it was so crazy to see some of the most talented people I've ever laid eyes on. And like, when people argue about the Nepo thing, they're like, but they're talented. They're talented. And I'm like, they are talented, but so was this person tenfold in this acting class with me. And like, they have to have the resilience and the financial stability to continue doing that for maybe a decade or never to get the opportunity that Margaret Qualley has. And so it's like this like, they're missing that resilience and the grit that I just so respect in people who just work their asses off and came from a family in the Midwest with no, entertainment background at all and connections. So it's tough. It's like, it's not taking away from the talent that they have. It's just, there's like a million things in between they didn't experience. And like a badge of honor. I think it's a badge of honor to have had to do like 8 million auditions and get told no 8 million and, 7,000 whatever times.
No, I really love it. I love it because it's also like, I think we live in this weird clickbaity world too, where it's like, Becca and I grew up knowing each other in New York. We were both dancers, and like you just went in and the best dancers got the job or the best singers got the job. And that really sucked having to audition against Becca with her beautiful voice, and I would get kicked out and they'd be like, please go home. And I'd be like, ah! Anyway.
It was your bad hair extensions.
I had terrible hair. I mean, there's so many things wrong. I can't believe I worked at all. But anyway, I guess my thing is like the best person won. And now we see like, even in podcasting, even in every single thing on earth, it's like the most clicks wins. So whoever is going to click the highest actually wins. So you have to not only have a talent, but you also have to have like this insane Instagram following. And this like, it just drives me bananas. But then also like, I don't know. It's just such
the reality.
The reality. Like there's nothing you can do about it.
And how do you keep your drive and like ambition and like you have listening to your podcast, it's clear that you both are cut from the same cloth. And there's like two camps of casting, in my opinion, like old guard, new guard. And you talked about that too. But like you guys seem to keep your optimism and like your passion for why you initially got into it. Like what grounds you and keeps you staying and like doing the things like going to across the world, to the country to try to find people. And I want to go on that next trip with you and to observe, even though you're not doing it again.
So fun.
But it sounds amazing.
I will say, I mean, it's very hard to keep your optimism. I think, in a landscape that's constantly changing. Jenn, take the answer.
You're like, it's gone, actually. I'm quitting tomorrow.
And I'm out. Bye. Mic drop.
She's like, so LadyGang made me realize that I hate this. And
I think that's the thing is like, I love working with actors so much. And it makes it so challenging because there is that great divide within the casting community of the younger generation just being as scrappy as possible to get the work and have the sort of I like to say the equitable access to opportunities, not even giving us the job because let us show you how great we are. But the fact is that a number of casting directors within our generation are not even getting the opportunities, and just to give it a shot. And so what ends up happening is like there are so many offices that hoard the work, and for us it's a survival thing as well, because we, as actors do, as writers do, we get our health insurance from our hours of working. And so it's really hard to sustain having health insurance. And I think it's like one of those things that it is retaining benefits is so challenging within our profession because there's not that consistency within the community. It's just like you're here or you're there. And, but I think the thing that keeps us thriving is finding that new talent and watching all the content that's out there and seeing who is coming up in the ranks in different ways and unexpected. And I think we talk about it a lot of having that openness to be surprised when you're going through the casting process. So I think that excites me and keeps me in it for as long as I can survive.
All right. When we come back, we're going to have the ladies play a little game called Casting Couch. It's not what you think.
Oh, boy.
The Lady Gang.
We're back. Okay, so we are going to have you recast some of our favorite iconic shows, who you would put in the role now. Okay, so we're going to go Bodyguard. Whitney Houston, Kevin Costner, who I love on Yellowstone so much. So sad that
he's
that's
leaving.
It.
He's done.
Sexy.
I love him so much. Okay.
I feel like they don't make him like him anymore.
No. Oh my God. I'm in love with him, and he's like 75 years old, and I would watch him all day over like a Jacob Eldori or whatever. Like I think, and that maybe I'm just
a random
old.
choice.
No, because I just saw him he's playing Elvis and Priscilla. Just saw it.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very tall. And she's very tall. It's weird.
Do you want to go, Jess, or do you want me to go?
I'll go real quick. I think these are so iconic, and I think that like who can be Whitney?
Yeah.
Like so few people. Yeah. But I think for me, and I'm going to steal one of Jen's, I think Cynthia Erivo could be interesting. And
that's what I was going to say.
No, stop it.
It was.
Oh my God.
Well, the one that I was going to steal from you was Joe Cole.
Oh, love him.
Wait, Joe Cole. Who's that?
He's a...
yeah, go ahead. He's British. He's on... Did you watch Peaky Blinders with Cillian Murphy at all? I mean... He plays the third brother... Who's like it's Killy? It's like Paul Anderson plays the oldest, Cillian Murphy, and then Joe Cole.
A blonde.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's currently the lead of Gangs of London.
Gangs of London.
Okay. I love him, but my hall pass is Cillian Murphy, so I was blinded by love, so I couldn't really
see anything else. Okay.
I would say Taylor Kitsch would be my Kevin Costner. This day and age, he seems like kind of like rugged.
He's
ready.
Justice for what was his name? Ruffles on Friday Night Lights.
Oh, Tim Riggins.
Tim Riggins. Justice for Tim Riggins. Oh my God. Sorry, I forgot. No, it's not Ruffles.
Ooh, I like this casting. Okay.
What if you were recasting Ghost? Patrick.
I had a good one for that.
And
Let me go first.
Demi Moore.
Yes. So it may be controversial. I don't know. Mine is Zendaya.
Oh yeah.
As the Demi Moore.
I love
if you go that route. If you keep it like same as like Demi vibes, I would maybe go Daisy Edgar Jones.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I went Rachel Brosnahan.
Oh.
Because she has, I mean, watching her in Maisel and then watching her in House of Cards, I feel like she's got the grit and sort of the softness that Demi had. And so that would be my choice.
I love
her.
Yeah.
I like those.
Hey.
Patrick Swayze. Wait,
Patrick Swayze.
I put James Norton.
Oh. That I like that.
That's my favorite. I'm obsessed with him right now. See, he was in Happy Valley. He's British. Yeah. Guys. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have a lot of Brits
in the UK right now. Just so
But he has that because I feel like Patrick Swayze is like he's like so manly, but also like has a bit of a feminine side with the dancing and just like the kindness and like the core of who he is just like a decent human. And James Norton gives that vibe So did you see Greta Gerwig's Little Women?
Yeah.
He played the husband, not the yeah. He was so good.
That was really good. That really was underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it.
I went a little bit older for Pedro Pascal.
Of course.
Yes, I love him.
You're obsessed with him.
Obsessed.
Who's not?
Love.
Okay.
I was wondering where you would find a spot for him.
He's probably coming again.
Yeah. Okay, last one. Christina Applegate in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, and also the Bundys. What's that show?
Married with Children.
Married with Children.
I feel like they're the same character, but yes.
Yeah.
I would go, first person to mind was Florence Pugh.
I have one very similar.
Irreverent. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good too. What are the rest of the movies on the list I made, Kelty?